Good morning, everybody. John here at Havoc Maker Studio. Hoping you guys are having a great Friday. To everybody that is at the North Texas RPG Con this weekend, I hope you guys are having a good time getting your games on. I am sorry I had to cancel. Not that anybody was like dying to meet the famous John from Havoc Maker Studios, but I do regret not be able to make it this weekend or host the two games I was intending to. The Symborum game on actually today, and of course the playtest rules for the Marvel Multiverse RPGs. So unfortunately, circumstances prevented me from doing that. But I hope you guys are having a fantastic time. I was really hoping to see some old friends, but life goes on and gets in the way of everything. And also, I want to say a quick shout out to all of my friends and that are out playing at the War Games Con down in Austin, or Balstrip, however you want to look at that. I hope you guys are having a good time. I think the Marvel Crisis Protocol tournament has already been kicked off about an hour ago. I think the first stages of the Warhammer 40,000 ones are going on right now, and all the other ones. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Please be safe and have a great time. I hope you win. Who that is, I'll let you guys figure out. But right now, I want to talk about Everyday Heroes, the tabletop RPG for the using the 5e system. This is a spiritual successor, maybe a literal successor to the D20 Modern that came out in 2002. Yeah, 2002 after Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 came out. Had really great success. I've already got a video kind of covered in the beginning. This is more of an update video to the Kickstarter. We are now, I think, 16 days in. So only 14 days left to go. We're well over, not we, they are well over their pledge goal of 15,000. Are sitting at $273,771. That's absolutely amazing. I love that. That's great. I love success stories like this. I hope that I can learn from this because I do have access to the playtest rules. Not that I'm copying the playtest rules, but seeing how they do the playtest setup, how they do all their setup, and how, basically how all this goes. Like I've been learning from all these other successful and failures for me to be able to launch my Kickstarter for my RPG. Hopefully, I hope sometime next year, once I can get the art settled and get that covered. At any rate, let's talk about Evil Genius Productions and Everyday Heroes. So I do have some people have talked to me offline and of course sent me messages, emails, Facebook messages, which I do appreciate. I love being able to talk to people about RPGs and tabletop gaming in general. But I do wish or hope that at some point you guys will ask in the comments below. Not necessarily, I mean, I do benefit from it, but other people might like to see your questions and maybe they can answer it, or they might be like, oh, I like that question. Also, can I ask about this that's in relation to that too? And then this whole conversation spirals out of control like it does on the interwebs, and we can sit there and discuss it in the comments, and it also helps flag the channel so more people see it, that sort of thing. I love interacting with you guys, so I do appreciate if you could. You're not required to, but if you feel like you want to, go ahead and put it in the comments. All right, so I've gone through the playtest book, and wow, or multiple playtest books. There's a lot of playtest material. Still don't know exactly what I can reveal. So as far as I'm going to go is right now, unless I've skipped over it or unless I missed it in the email correspondence from Evil Genius, I'm not going to relay what is in the playtest material because I think, even though I haven't signed an NDA, that could be bad for me. So we're not going to relay all that. However, we will go over and kind of clarify some of the questions some people had. So right now, Everyday Heroes is looking, now this isn't one of the questions, but after looking at all this, it looks like it will be released in November of this year. Likely, though, if I understood correctly, November this year is probably the PDF, and then the physical copies will be early next year. You never know with the Kickstarters. There's always interference, and with our having global shipping issues going on right now, it's likely there could be delays. I'm not saying there is, so please don't panic. Go, I don't want to support this. Don't do that. Get involved right now, because if you do back the Kickstarter, even if the book is going to be delayed, if I'm not saying it is, even if it, let's say it does become delayed, that means if you were waiting to have it at your and pick it up at your local game store, that means you're going to be delayed longer because Kickstarter backers get it before the retailers. And if you're a Kickstarter supporter, you're going to get the PDF copy first. So you're going to get it no matter what. You're going to get it way before everybody else that's waiting for it to pop up at their friendly local game store. So support the Kickstarter. That's my little advert there. All right. So a couple things people want to know about is how are you doing ability score modifiers? What are these backgrounds? What are the professions? And I can tell you that it is extremely extensive looking at the playtest book, or the all the different playtest books. I think the version 3 or 4 is what I'm reading right now. It is very extensive, and the combinations that you're going to be able to go through with, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think it's about 20 professions and about 20 backgrounds. And then there's 18 classes, right? And we're going to cover those because some people were a little confused about the classes, and even I was. So looking at these, I'm not even going to try to calculate the number of combinations, but I'm going to say 100,000 possible combinations just based off of professions, backgrounds, and the base class and the subclass class. We'll cover that in a second. And that's even before we get into feats and everything else that goes along with it. So the combinations are near limitless. Let's go with that. So first up, let's talk about backgrounds. So backgrounds are literally your backstory. This is where you come from. Whether in some of these cases in the quick start guide that they have, it's like you have amnesia, so you have no idea. Maybe that's part of the drive for this campaign that you're participating in, is trying to figure out who you are, what happened, what caused you to lose your memory, why don't you have official records, what is going on, that sort of thing. Maybe you're just salt of the earth type of person, and you're a housewife that gets embroiled in a battle with kaiju. These things can happen. Have you watched sci-fi films like on Amazon Prime or anything? These things can happen, and that's why one of the great things I love about the everyday heroes is because it's us. It's us. It's not the chosen one that's, well, unless you're like playing the Highlander one, but you're not the chosen hero that's born or been resurrected or whatever to face the demon lord, or you're not the seventh son of the seventh son, though you could be. It's none of that stuff where you're bitten by a radioactive hippopotamus and you've got the full powers of a hippo, that sort of thing. You're the everyday guy, right? These are these action stars, these action movies, kind of what we've talked about in the previous one, like Escape from New York, like Total Recall, any of those, Rambo. Yes, those are action heroes, but they're not, well, with the exception of the Crow. Okay, so they're still everyday heroes, but they've got a little quirk that makes them a little more. But it's not like overwhelming powered, like you're not running around as Thor, God of Thunder or whatever. You're just some guy that's got a lot of training or maybe some little special ability. You're still an everyday guy. If you look at the Crow, Eric Draven, yeah, he's got some new supernatural powers, but he's an everyday guy. He wasn't like born into this role. He didn't just come into existence. He's not the chosen one for it. He's just got some extra abilities. He's still an everyday guy with the motions, the training, the skills, the experience, whatnot. I hope I'm getting very clear on that. At any rate, so these backgrounds, these are where you come from. This is what's got everything that's been behind you to get you to where you are now. Now, each of these do come with an ability score adjustment of your choice for the most part. Sometimes they might have, intel and wisdom, or maybe dexterity and charisma, whatever. You get some bonus equipment, usually just a little knickknack. These are very similar to the regular backgrounds you have in Dungeons and Dragons, where you get like a proficiency, some sort of languages, a little knickknack, a piece of equipment, maybe a special ability, like they have one here. Have you ever read? You can use your proficiency bonus to any ability check, recall knowledge regarding authors and literature for the bookworm background. It's basically like your regular background, except you're getting an ability score adjustment on top of that, which normally you don't do in the backgrounds unless something has changed in 5e. Then the next thing you'll do is pick your profession. Now, this is where you're making your money. This is where you work at, right? Not necessarily also it's not necessarily the drive of what you're doing right now. It's not the goal is to, rise up through the ranks. This just happens to be how you're getting by with your normal everyday expenses and whatnot. But it also might have ties into your class and such. So we got some like the field agent. They always give all these so far have some sort of professional name to go alongside of it. These are just samples, but it gives you an idea. What's a field agent? Well, you could be a spy, a field operative, secret agent, diplomatic attaché, that sort of thing. It's a title that you get to basically choose from or give you a ballpark idea. So when you are developing your background story, your goals for everything for your character and working with your GM, hopefully, it kind of helps give a little bit more focus to your character. Now, these professions give you a number of things that you can actually see here on the screen, like ability score adjustment. You get a bunch more proficiencies, language, and a lot of them have another little sort of bonus. Like the field agent has a safe house. They have access to a level 3 safe house somewhere in the city. That's a nice little bonus and everything that comes alongside it. Now, one thing you don't see on here is the wealth level. They are holding that, so I'm not going to reveal the wealth level, but it is a revised and easy to use wealth system. And once I have confirmation on what I can reveal playtest wise, I will most certainly do. I think a lot of it's already out there, but I want to make sure that I get all my bases covered so I don't get in trouble. So, but the wealth system, we will cover actually what we know about the wealth system as of right now. So everybody will, based on the profession, have a starting wealth level. So after all that's done, we're going to go to your class. So you've already gone through your attributes, you've gone through your background, you went to your profession. Now we're going to talk about classes. And we kind of hit on this before. There are 18, I think now there's 19 classes, or there will be more classes depending on where the Kickstarter ends up. So the classes are separated into two groups. We have our base class, and those are reliant or relative to your ability score. So if you're a strong class, if you want to take the strong class, that means you're using strength as your primary attribute. If you're a tough class, constitution, agile would be dexterity, and intelligence, and so on and so forth, or smart for intelligence, so on and so forth. So you get an idea. Now, these base classes are just that. They're just a base class. And like here, I would want to do a commando, which happens to be a tough class. So that the tough class gives me everything you're seeing right here on the screen, or if you're just listening while you're driving, hopefully you're not watching this while you're driving. You get your hit dice, starting max hit dice, starting max hit points, the normal things that you see in 5e for a character class. Then we have our defense. Now our defense is our armor class for those familiar with 5e Dungeons and Dragons. And most of the little supplements or things like Everyday Heroes or Ultramodern 5e that use that sort of thing. So here, armor class and defense are pretty much the same thing, but we're going to use the terminology defense, and we're going to explore more on that as we go. especially in regards to how you apply armor and defense into combat, because combat is another one of those things a lot of people have asked about. So other things your base class is going to do is your proficiencies for saving throws, skills, and your equipment. So like the Commando's got basic, advanced, and military equipment as equipment proficiencies. Now, once you've determined what your base class is, strong, tough, smart, whatever, there's going to be subclass. Well, they call them classes. So your base class centers around the attributes, the six different attributes. The classes, which I don't know if I like that terminology. I feel like they should call them subclasses or maybe careers or something different than base class than class. I think most people can figure that out, that there's base class and class. It's just a weird blending. It's too close together in terminology. I think there should be a separation, but that's really the only criticism I have in that regards. So in this case, I've chosen the Commando. So the Commando has a list of abilities that you get as you level up, just like a regular class in any of the 5e versions that are out there. They give you your, well, they call them talents, but some people call them abilities or special abilities or bonuses, whatnot, that you get every level. Now, I can tell you right now, from what I've seen for all the 18 classes, is that they are strictly, they are not reskins of existing Dungeons and Dragons classes. This is very important to understand. Now, you will see things like, say, second wind and extra attack brought over, but that doesn't mean that it's a reskin. Yes, there's a lot of classes out there that have extra attacks in 5e, but it doesn't make them a fighter. So Commando does not necessarily mean it's a fighter. I mean, they do fight, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here is that it's not a reskin of the fighter class or the paladin class or the rogue class or the bard or anything like that. These are all unique classes, which is, I think, really important to understand. So you're not stuck in that rut of the Dungeons and Dragons 5e system that exists. So anyways, you get to choose your abilities. There are feats that you can pick up as you level up. That I think is a really good idea. And it looks like, as far as I can tell, unless I've of course skipped over it, normally when you would get an ability score adjustment, which is usually like level 4, level 8, so on and so forth, you're actually going to be picking either 2 minor feats or 1 major feat. At least so far, what I've seen with these classes, like that was the brute class. Here's the Commando. Taking a look at the mastermind, it's the same thing. So you're going to be taking feats, which is actually good. It's a little kind of a callback to 3.0 when you could be picking up a lot more feats than you kind of do now with 5e. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be overpowered, because the feats that we are seeing are not overpowered. A lot of them are kind of translated over. I mean, dual wield is still dual wield, whether it's in fantasy or if it's in modern day. That's not going to change. So before anybody goes, oh, it's just a reskin, come on, dual wielding is still dual wielding. No matter what era you are when it comes to combat. So I want to now kind of focus on, now we've already covered the character classes. Now, the one thing I'm not going to cover, because it's still under the beta testing, or within the playtest rules, there's a lot more stuff that goes into obviously building the characters. What we see here in the Quickstart rules and what I'm covering is only a small bit. So there's more that goes into the finishing touches for the mechanics portion of your characters. And then, of course, the fleshing out all the details that help give your character a lot more focus within the campaign world that you're doing. Whether you're using your own unique, your GM and you guys have got together and go, hey, let's do a game centered around the supernatural TV series with the Winchester brothers. Okay, cool. Let's do that. That sounds really awesome. Even though it's outside of what Everyday Heroes has as available adventure books, it's still within the realm. I mean, you guys can do what you want with your RPG. If you guys want to get isekai'd, like something straight out of a anime, you guys get isekai'd from the modern day world to the fantasy world, but you bring in over these characters. I don't know. You guys can do whatever you want. And I think I lost what I was going to say. Anyways, so you round out your character, and I'm not going to go with all the in-depth details that they do to help give you a lot more focus. It's more than what I would say Dungeons and Dragons and a lot of other companies will do, and rounding out what your character is, beliefs and motivations and such like that. They do, it looks like right now, a lot more than what other companies do, which I think is great. It's something that gets missed on, especially when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons 5e. A lot of it's like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and get my paladin. He's got the standard, I don't know, rage paladin. Okay, that's not a thing. Oathbreaker Paladin, and I'm going to do a dwarf Oathbreaker or Dragonborn Oathbreaker Paladin of Torm and blah, blah, blah. The standard profile, and it gets very boring. It's the same thing over and over again. At least here with Everyday Heroes, it's going to be a lot more involved, and you're going to have a lot more uniqueness to your character. Trust me on that. So I'm going to dive right into some equipment. Some people had questions about that. Mainly things about semi-automatic, full auto, burst, suppressive fire, and stuff like that. So I want to go ahead and at least cover a little bit of that, even though the rule, it's all right here in the playtest, or not the playtest guide, but the quick start guide. So you guys can go ahead and look at it there. But for those people that don't have the opportunity to look at it, this is what I can at least tell you. So I did go in and check on, and we had a debate about this because I do like to watch a lot of gun manufacturer, or not gun manufacturer, but gun related videos like Demolition Ranch, AK Guy, Brandon Herrera, Grantham, Kentucky Ballistics, and a few others. I really enjoy watching their videos, especially when they're just like, hey, what will a 50 BMG do to 200 pounds of cheese? Oh, I want to know. I'm sure you guys want to know too. But I also was checking, about distances and mainly the range differences and possibly the damage. And it's really, I think it's kind of, some people are like, well, man, I don't think a 38 should do a D6 damage versus a 9 millimeters D10. It doesn't seem realistic. It's kind of hard to gauge really what how to rate the damage. I mean, obviously a 22 pistol is not going to do as much damage as say a 50 BMG, but it's definitely going to do a lot more than a punch, right? Does that make sense? I think that might be a weak analogy, but I hope it's still within the wheelhouse. But I was checking that sort of thing and trying to get a good gauge. And I can't really see how they gauged it. I tried my best to gauge it based on muzzle velocity, pounds per square inch on impact, or the newtons. I can't remember the terminology now. Anyways, so I gave up on figuring out the damage part. So we're just going to leave that alone. But the ranges seem to be relatively good. What I can tell you about semi-auto, it's basically every pull of a trigger. It's in the rules there, guys. The different rules like burst, like in this case, let's go with let's scroll down to military weapons, like the assault carbine rifle, or rifle assault carbine, has a variety of rules here. So burst 3, that means you can fire it on burst, and every time you burst, just like most burst weapons, or at least handheld burst weapons that weren't like a heavier weapon like a Mod Deuce or something along that lines, that burst 3 means that you're going to be firing off 3 rounds to do the burst. And what a burst will do, in the most basic terms, is give you extra dice of damage, right? But you're going to be at a disadvantage for firing, because burst fire is a little bit harder to control, just like full auto, especially if you've ever fired full auto or burst weapons. I've done both, and even belt fed, that it's hard to control. It's hard to control. So I like that mechanic. That's actually a mechanic that I had put in to one of the earlier attempts at rules creations for my RPG, the original rule set, then its conversion to Savage Worlds, and then over to 5e, and then back to Savage Worlds. Well, Savage Worlds I didn't have to tinker with, but my 5e version of it, and then the original rule set version of it. And when I say original rule set, I had a mathematician and a computer game designer. They actually worked together on it, and I said, "This is what I wanted. Please help me out because I can't figure out the math behind doing the rule set." And they sat down for a few weeks and came back to me and provided me with really intuitive, really easy to use rule system. I was super excited. And then as I was kind of crunching the numbers and just doing some phantom dice rolling, I realized that they unwittingly or unknowingly created the Savage World dice, dice mechanics. So I decided, hey, we're going to Savage World. Funny little backstory for my RPG. At any rate, I do like what they do here with this. So the full auto means that, you know what, we're just going to read full auto here. Full auto, not the whole thing, but the gun will fire continuously. So as long as you hold the trigger, but you're going to be burning through those rounds. Basically, what full auto does is allow you to do suppressive fire. Now, suppressive fire here is almost exactly what I was looking at doing. And now I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that what they've done with suppressive fire or any of the rules they've taken from me. I am not even remotely suggesting that they've stole anything from me. Some of you guys have to understand something that I learned. Maybe you guys just knew or just assumed. When it comes to writing game mechanics, it's very, very difficult to come up with alternate or very unique rules. Almost all the rules out there are going to have some sort of overlay and or overlap. So it's almost inevitable that if you're using a D20 system, you're going to have rules that are going to be very similar to 10 other systems that use a straight D20 to determine success or whatnot. Same with any sort of dice mechanic. It is very difficult from what talking to, I guess you can call them experts within the industry. It's very difficult to come up with your own super unique system that nobody else has come up with. There's too many things out there that are too close. So I'm just saying that I would not accusing them of stealing or anything remotely. So please take that. I'm just bringing it up that it's just funny to see a lot of the same things that I was looking at coming up and being used. That's all. All right. Enough of that. I'm starting to carry on here. So like suppressive fire, some people are curious about what full auto does. So the suppressive fire or full auto allows you to do suppressive fire, and that there's some very certain steps that go under the full auto. So for example, you target an area up to 30 feet wide. The attack burns through 20 rounds of the magazine. So if you don't have 20 rounds, don't be doing full auto. You're probably going to be doing semi-auto. The rounds are expended to take the action. Okay. That's like the basics. So what you are doing with that suppressive fire or that full auto is you're targeting an area, and everybody in that area can basically take some sort of action, either go into cover or stay up and try to return fire or move, whatnot. Excuse me. If they are able to be hit, they're going to get hit, possibly depending on their dice rolls. If they are not able to get hit, like they are totally, completely covered behind like 6 feet of concrete, then you're not going to hurt the guys behind 6 feet of concrete. It's just not going to happen. Even with a BMG, even though we love the BMG, 6 feet of concrete is going to stop a BMG, right? At least I'm pretty sure. I mean, 600 pounds of cheese will stop a BMG. Well, regardless, depending on that, and once again, I want you guys to read the rules. I don't want to take away from all their work, but once we figure out everybody that's in that field of fire, are they diving for cover? Are they going to stay in the field of fire? You're going to roll attacks, do damage to anybody that's able to be hit, and you're going to move on. But it does have its other benefits that go alongside it. So once again, I don't want to pull away from it. But there are some good solid rules in regards to suppressive, full auto, semi-auto, burst fire. You're not going to be disappointed like some other systems that go, oh, just do an extra dice of damage. No, it's a little bit more intuitive and a lot more thematic than a lot of other RPGs that just use full auto and burst as just a generic dumping ground to do some more dice or do more dice of damage. Does that make sense? The other thing I want to cover is we already talked about the defense roll. So everybody has a defense value equal to 10 plus whatever your class modifier is. So like Commando is tough or dexterity, or sorry, Constitution or dexterity. Whichever is higher, that's going to give you the best value, plus your proficiency, your defense proficiency bonus that every class is going to have. And once again, every class is going to have, as you level up, some sort of value that's going to be higher for some classes, like say the Agile character or the Agile class is going to be have a higher defense bonus per level versus say the smart character who's not as physically involved or as physically adept as the Agile character. Does that make sense? I hope so. So that will go up and down. Now, what armor is going to do for you is not increase your armor class or your defense. What it is going to do is save your life, which I think this is really great. There are some slight differences to the way I was looking at the mechanic, but I do like what they're doing here. So we're going to go over this because I think it's very important, and somebody actually highlighted it to me. Actually, one of the creators or members of the team mentioned to me. So when you get shot or hit or whatever, and you're wearing personal armor, if your hit points drop to 0 hit points by an attack, so you get a chance on, okay, let me just read this whole thing. It only comes into play when a combatant will be dropped to 0 hit points by an attack by stopping the damage on a successful armor save. So there is a bit of a process. It's going to happen like this, guys. The little phantom dice rolling I did, it goes by really fast. So you're going to compare the armor's armor value to the attacker's penetration value. So some weapons, like let's just say the BMG, has a high penetration value because it's just going to tear through armor, right? And some armor is just weaker than others and whatnot. So if you're just wearing basic undercover body armor, it might have an armor value of a 1, where say a 50 BMG, a 50 caliber rifle might have a penetration value of a 4. Since the penetration value exceeds that armor value, it's just going to tear through it. So in this case, if it's equal to or higher, you're going to skip to step 2. If it's not, then you're going to go to step 3. So step 2 allows you an opportunity to make a DC 20 armor saving throw. Now, all armor has some sort of armor saving throw value attached to it. We'll scroll back and take a look at that. If you succeed, you don't take any damage. That is really cool. If you fail, you take the full damage. Okay, that does suck. Now, if that's only if it penetrates. If it did not penetrate, the armor has been damaged. You're going to decrease that saving throw by 5. We'll take a look at that in a second. It will now be harder to make your next armor save. You should probably buy new armor. And this is the cool thing that I liked about this. One of the values I was looking at is including sappy plates. If you guys are not familiar, sappy plates basically stop 1, maybe 2 hits. It really should just go with 1 hit and swap out plates, but you might not be able to if you're getting shot a lot. But they're designed to really stop 1 hit. Depending on if it's a metal plate, which not too many metal plates these days, but you got a lot more like ceramic plates and such. I like that idea because now you're going to have to swap out that plate because your armor is not going to protect you from getting shot again. or that sappy plate will not, especially if you get shot in the chest. But this right here, I like this. The armor has been damaged, which that is true. Armor gets damaged, and especially if you watch like Demolition Ranch and Garantham, they show what the damage is like and shows how the integrity of modern day armor disintegrates under repeated attacks. And I like this. And the fact that we're only worrying about if it drops you to 0 hit points, so that that's not going to come into effect if you're at max hit points, you just got shot by a 9mm. Oh, it hurt. Definitely hurt. You probably bruised, but you're still able to walk around. And then some jerk off pops off a 50 BMG. Okay, now your armor needs to save her butt. And hopefully it does. And so by some value, you make your DC 20 check. That armor's going to be scrapped now, but it did its purpose, which is a lot more modern day, a lot more realistic than the way Dungeons and Dragons uses armor class right now, which I think is a horrible idea. The fact that the armor is not preventing damage is just making it harder to hit. In fact, you should be easier to hit if you're running around with armor on, because it's weighing you down physically. You're not as agile as you are without armor. So what armor should do is mitigate damage. And that's what they've done here. A brilliant job on doing it. One thing I did notice, right on the right page for this, is they are still doing the short and long rest. There's nothing saying that they can't do that. It does look like, and we're not saying 100% that it's happening, but Wizard of the Coast, for their next iteration or their update for 5e to whatever, short rest is going to be going away. There's a lot of indication going on about that from my sources and from other YouTube commenters and such. Now, will this stay in there? Probably, because there's no, especially this might be a lot more fitting and thematic. Might fit the campaign, the setting that they've got going on here a lot more. You see people take those quick breathers. Oh my God, we gotta chill out for a minute. We're gonna sit here and hide, and then they're kind of revitalized, re-energized to go on to the next scene or the next act in the movies and such. So here, short rest. Perfect probably place for it to stay. Other places, other games like Dungeons & Dragons regular, then yeah, that's probably going to go away. And there's good reason for that. We're not going to get into that today. So let me go back up real quick to if I can find armor and equipment. I don't know if I can find it anymore. No, I should not have left it. I did leave it, and I'm going to regret that. So I was wanting to show you guys. Oh, here we go. Yay, I think we got it. Nope. Maybe. Here we go. I'm trying to find it, guys. I am so sorry for rolling past that. I wanted to show about the armor values for equipment. You know what? We've already passed it. I don't think we're going to find it again. Unless we scroll all the way to the top. Every piece of armor has some sort of armor value. That's our saving throw. That's what I want to talk about. So here we go. Ballistic vest, medium size. So properties.ballistic. So there are puncture value or for knife weapons and such. If you're not aware, knife weapons will tear through most ballistic armor. That's going to happen. They're not puncture proof unless it's rated for puncture proof, and that we might see that in future equipment. Right now, we're just looking at the Quickstart rules. So looking and going left to right here, we got the name of the armor, the saving throw bonus. So what your save bonus is. So it's a 15. So if you have a medium ballistic vest on, your DC to save is going to be 15 versus the 20, unless I am reading that wrong. We have our armor value. That is the price for the armor penetration, or the value for the armor penetration. So for example, we have the assault carbine that has a penetration value of a 3. Right there we have a penetration value of a 3. That would equal or exceed this armor value, which means that you would have to make a DC saving throw versus 20, if I understand that correctly. I hope I am. This is the bonus applied to your armor saving throw. There we go. So I'm hoping that my hectic breakdown of a lot of those questions that you guys had asked has been covered here for Everyday Heroes. I still think it is a fantastic RPG. I've already bought into it. In fact, I canceled another RPG so I could buy into this. I'm more interested in the core book than all the cinematic what do they call it? All the adventure campaigns. But I might go ahead and grab Highlander and Escape from New York because I kind of like those. They're two of my favorite shows. Maybe Pacific Rim for my friend. But let me know what you guys think about this. Over 1,500% funded, and they still got 14 days to go. I think they're going to crack 300,000, especially as more people highlight it on YouTube. Please share this out to your local groups. I know this is a very long video, but we did cover a lot, and I do have more videos for this coming as soon as I get clarification if I can cover the playtest material. And if I'm allowed to, please, while we're waiting, please put it in the comments below. Reach out to me in the comments below, or if you want to do it on email or messenger, whatnot, ask questions that I can make a list and go over the playtest. If I'm allowed to go over those playtest rules and go, hey man, Jake, blah, blah, blah. Here is the answer to your question. We can do another video covering that and get some more clarification. Since we are only 14 days away, please jump on that as soon as possible so you guys have plenty of time to buy in on this Kickstarter. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. You have a wonderful weekend. See you later.